it. First of all, where is the location? Then secondly, we want to know how many or how much is the lesion. Is it single or multiple? Then we want to know how big is the lesion. Is it very big or is it very small? Then we want to see is the color of the lesion. Does it pink, yellow, red, or black? Then we want to see the texture of the lesion. Is it irregular or rough? Or there is a deep thickening of the lesion in duration or atrophy? Then on the sixth key point, we want to see the shape of the lesion. Is it round, oval, or annular? And we want to see the distribution of the lesion. Is it unilateral, bilateral, or diffuse? Or is it grouping up in a specific region? Then lastly, we want to see if there is any secondary changes of the lesion. For example, due to the scratching, what happened to the lesion? So moving on to the primary skin lesion. So what is primary skin lesion? It is non-pathological skin which has not been altered by trauma or manipulation. Manipulation such as scratching or rubbing, or not or natural regression over time. So it's non-pathological skin. So first of all, I will continue with the there is a 9 that I listed out in the primary skin lesion. First of all is macule, patch, papule, nodule, plaque, vesicle, which is blistered, bulle, wheal, and pustule. So I will explain about macule first. So macule is a flat skin lesion. So it is just flat, less or equal than 1 centimeter in diameter. So it is circumscribed, as we can see in this picture. The macule of the pityriasis versicolor rubra, we can see there is several groups of the red brown macule, and it is coincides at the back of the patient. Then we can see in the tinea versicolor, there is numerous hypopigmented macule. Is on the back of the patient also. Then moving on to the second flat skin lesion, which is the patch. So the patch, for the macule, we can see it is less than 1 centimeter. For the patch, it is 1 centimeter or greater in diameter. Flat skin lesion. So we can see in the tinea corporis patient, we can see the lesion of the patch is in singular, or it is in circular patches, which is ringworm. We can see in here. So at the upper abdomen. So on the children with Kaposi sarcoma and HIV, we can see there is multiple purple brownish patches. Then in the tinea capitis patient, we can see there is multiple erythematous circular lesion on and we can see the broken hair shaft of the patients. So that is all for the flat skin lesion. We're moving on to the elevated, or what we call palpable skin lesion, which is a papule. First of all is papule. It is a palpable skin lesion with no visible fluid lesion. So there is a fluid. The size is less than 1 centimeter in diameter. So we can see this is a patient of the histoplasmosis. This is multiple or numerous disseminated erythematous papule. Then we can see in here, on the patient atopic dermatitis, there is a scaly erythematous plaque. This is the plaque. And we can see around the plaque, we can see the multiple partly confluent papule. And in the patient with neurofibromatosis, on the purple circle, we can see the papule. And on the red circle, we can see the well-defined hyperpigmented macule. And on the blue circle, we can see a nodule. So moving on to the second elevated skin lesion, which is nodule. It is palpable, solid elevated skin lesion, less than 1 centimeter, more than 1 centimeter in diameter. So in squamous cell carcinoma, we can see this is a solitary nodule at the lower lip of the patient. And in the xanthoma tendinosum patient, we can see the nodule on the dorsum hand. It is we can describe it as multiple yellowish nodule. And in the patient with erythema nodosum, we can see this is a poorly defined erythematous. We can see there is a redness, erythematous, and slightly raised nodule. So moving on to the third palpable skin lesion, primary skin lesion is plaque. Plaque is palpable solid elevated and well circumscribed also skin lesion more than 1 centimeter in diameter. So in the necrobiosis lipoidica, we can see this is sharply demarcated yellowish plaque at the peritibial. Then we can see in the psoriasis multiple round sharply demarcated also, and also scaly. There is a scaly of the erythematous plaque in this. And in the pityriasis rosea, we can see bilateral diffuse of a shape. It's need to zoom in to see the plaque. So, thing. Okay. So moving on to the next palpable elevated lesion, which is vesicle. So this is the lesion, the starting of the lesion that containing the fluid, palpable elevated lesion with fluid. So we can see in the vesicle is basically blister. Okay. So in herpes zoster, we can see multiple group vesicle. This one at the back of the patient, and this is the appear hemorrhagic vesicles. Then in the eczema herpeticum, we can see vesicle eruption of the multiple in the circular shape of the lesion of vesicle. It's vesicle eruption. Then moving on to the bullae, which is palpable, rounded, elevated lesion containing fluid, but it is more large than vesicle. So it's just more than 1 centimeter in diameter. So in the bullous pemphigoid, we can see the tense bullae erosion on the skin. Then in the Steven-Johnson syndrome, we can see the bullae. It is irregularly shaped. So this one is like oval, this one is like circular. Bullae with macule. Then after that, we would like to see the wheel.
Between bullae and macule again. So where's the macule? Can you go back to the Where's the macule?
Macule, yeah.
So which part is the macule?
This one.
Which part is the macule?
Less than 1 centimeter.
Okay, sometimes around the bullae they can have an erythematous base, but you can't really say it's a macule because it's at the base lah. Sometimes the erythema is at the base, so you can say tense bullae with an erythematous or vivacious or pruric base, for example, yeah. So macules, maybe it's not really actually in the photo. You can't really see much macule, many macules. Maybe on the top right there, beside the blister. I'm not really sure. You can see a couple of macules there. Okay, but it's the primary rash is not really macule. Well, if it's there, it's not really well projected in this photo. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Hafsah. So I moving on to the wheel. Wheel is palpable, edematous, platelet elevation of various size. So it is well circumscribed, and it is there is erythematous, papule, or plaque. So in the contact urticaria, we can see this lesion. It is raised papule or wheel surrounded by erythema, raised papule. And this in the urticaria, we can see multiple well-defined erythematous wheel with raised border. You can see this raised border, and there is central clearing. And lastly, I think this lastly is the pustule. Pustule is basically vesicle filled with pus. So it must be less than 1 centimeter because it is vesicle. So we can see in the pustular psoriasis, this multiple pustule, multiple white pustule on erythematous base. And in the folliculitis, we can see there is 2 pustule surrounded by the erythema. Emerging, this is we can say there is hair follicle in the middle, emerging from hair follicle. So I think primary scalation that I can found from my references. Okay, I will pass on to the AQIL for the next topics.
Okay, good evening. I will be presenting the third part of this lecture, the secondary skin lesion, and the last part also. Okay, what is secondary skin lesion? The secondary skin lesion is a skin lesion that results from the modification of primary lesion, typically by recreation, trauma, or other exogenous or external factor. So there is 7 secondary skin lesion, which is scales, thrust, excoriation, and abrasion, fissures, erosions, ulcers, and scars. We will proceed to the first one, which is scales. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay. Okay, the first one is scales. Okay, so our body are usually constantly shedding like tiny and thin fragment of stratum corneum, which is the outermost layer of the skin lah. So scales are laminated layers of keratin, and it is usually formed when there is a rapid formation of epidermal cell, or when there is a disturbance of normal keratinization process. And the scale is very incisive. I give 3 stars, which is the first one is in the case of tinea versicolor, which is the scale we can probably see the fine, delicate, and brainy scale. But in the case of the psoriasis, we can see the scale is a bit bigger and it's sheen. It has a silvery white in color. And in the case of eczema, the scale is mostly a bit rough and a bit rough in its texture. Okay, the next one is the crust. Crust is dried serum, pus or blood, and usually mixed with epithelial and sometimes bacterial debris. And it usually occurs in inflammatory or infectious disease. And when detached, the base of the crust itself may be dry or red or moist. And this is the picture is the crust formation in the impetigo patient. Okay, next slide. Okay, the next one is excoriation.
Go back to the slides again. Go back to the last slides. Okay, the typical the impetigo, the crust on the crust.
The next one.
Next one, yeah. Okay, usually in impetigo, they describe it typically as honey-colored crusting. Can you see the honey color?
Can see that.
Looks like honey color, isn't it? It's not just yellowish, it's actually color of honey. It's typical of impetigo. Just saying, just sharing with you that if you mention honey colored crusting, it's actually typical of impetigo. Okay, next.
Okay, next move on to the excoriation and abrasion, or more commonly known as scratch mark. So scratch marks is a punctured or linear abrasion involving epidermis layer and sometimes the papillary layer of the dermis, like the top layer of the dermis. And scratch mark, as the name implies, caused by the scratching with the fingernails in an effort to relieve the itchiness caused by the disease. So the picture shown the sheen of an eczema patient that we can see it. The scratch mark is due to the irritation from eczema because eczema is like itchy, it will patient will scratch and it will cause scab formation from the scratching. And then in the next one is in the case of the lesion simplex chronicus, which is also known as neurodermatitis. This lesion simplex chronicus is a skin disorder characterized by thickened, discolored, and leathery looking skin that develop after the skin has been scratched over a long period of time. So in general, a longer and deeper excoriation, the longer and deeper scratch mark is indicate more severe pruritus that provoke them. So more severe pruritus, more severe scratch marks. Okay, next slide. Okay, the next one is fissure. Fissure is a linear cleft through the epidermis or into the dermis itself. This occurs when the skin is inflamed or dry, especially in region with frequent movement. And this fissure lesion, may be single or multiple, and vary in length with sharply defined margin. And when fissure is present, pain is often produced by movement of the part, which in turn will worsen the fissure itself and will form a new fissure. So if you can see, there is three example of the fissure. The first one is fissure at the edge of the heels because we use that a lot in working stuff. And the second one is the anal fissure, which we know is very painful for the patient. And the third one is the chap tips. It's also part of the fissures. Okay, the next one. Okay, next, the fifth one, we move on to the erosion. Erosion is a loss of is open area of skin that result from loss of all or portion of the epidermis alone, and it may not become crusted after it heals, but it will heal without leaving scar. Okay, next slide. This is erosion example in the impetigo patient. Okay, next slide. Okay, the next one is the ulcer, which is a rounded and or irregularly shaped excavation that result from the complete loss of epidermis plus some portion of dermis. And ulcer, different from the erosion, will heal with scarring. And the first example is the ulcer we see in the basal cell carcinoma patient. And the second one, which is I think we already know, which is in the case of the venous ulcer, which commonly occur at the leg. Okay, the next one. Okay, the next one is the last secondary skin lesion that I will talk, which is scars. Scars is a composed of neoconnective tissue that replace lost substance in the dermis or deeper parts resulting from the injury or disease. And their size is quite varied in their shape and size. It depends by the form of the previous injury lah. And scars first tend to be pink and later will become white, glistening, and rarely hyperpigmented. And scar are persistent, but usually it will become softer and less elevated and less noticeable by years. In this first picture, it shown the picture of scar of fully healed venous ulcer. And the second one is a picture showing that keloids and hypertrophic, which is the abnormal scar formation that occur due to the overproduction of collagen during the wound healing process. So there is quite a few difference between the keloids and hypertrophic one, but the most easiest to remember is the keloids. It will raise above the skin, darker in color, and expand beyond the original wound boundaries. But the hypertrophic one, we also raise above the skin, but it is lighter in color and confined within boundaries of the original wound. Okay. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the reference that me and NADZIRIN used to form these slides. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Is it the end of your presentation? Yeah.
Yes, that
Okay. Okay. Very organized. Nice slides. not too wordy, but good representation with photos of respective lesions or rash. Okay, very good. So we mentioned in pustules you mentioned Okay. All right. I just want to mention actually, if you want to remember easily, you can divide the rash into two. One, the distribution of rash into two. Okay, is it a raised rash or is it a flat rash? So,
Sorry, doctor. Your voice is breaking since the start of this too.
Categorize it into macule versus papule. So macule is flat, right? And papule is raised. Patch, patch, go to patch, okay. Patch is again flat and plaque is raised. Do you have, can you show me photos, examples of patches? Now you have here the set of pustules, so you see, you show pustular psoriasis. Okay, there is the sub of psoriasis
Doctor,
palmoplantar psoriasis, and a subset would be, usually they have pustules on how is it now? How is it now?
Still breaking, doctor.
Because I don't know why I cannot reconnect. Okay. Hello?
Hello, Doctor.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can everyone else hear me? Well, I'm trying to reconnect.
Yes.
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. So what I was going to say is, so if to easily remember the different types of skin lesions and how to describe them, you can describe it into that you can categorize it into flat lesions and raised lesions. So flat lesions can further be divided into um, the different sizes, okay, and the different colors maybe, okay, and the is hard because I cannot see your slide at the same time what you've done, what you've presented so far. But in the raised ones can be divided into papules, plaques, wheals, and etc. Okay. In some textbooks, you may actually see that the size that they define macule as less than 0.5 centimeter or 5 millimeter. So it just depends on textbooks, okay? But to make it simple, yeah, you can divide it into less than 1 centimeter or more than 1 centimeter. For bulle, you can have, you mentioned tense bulle, but you can also have flaccid bulle. So it ruptures easily. So you might look into the different examples of conditions that present with flaccid bulle, such as pemphigus vulgaris. They present with flaccid bulle. They also have mucosal involvement. And you might actually see I don't think you have actually mentioned this, but there are other description of skin lesions according to the shape. Okay. For example, serpiginous. If you have actually come across that serpiginous rash, that actually describes rash associated with cutaneous larva migrans. Can you hear me? Okay.
Okay, can Doctor.
You can, sorry. Can you hear me? If you have any questions, just let me know if it's not clear. So serpiginous, for example, so it describes the shape of the lesions present in condition like cutaneous larva migrans. Or flagellate dermatitis. Flagellate dermatitis can be present in, I think, with consumption of mushroom or also with some medications like chemotherapy. Okay, all right. So yeah, I think those are the you might want to do further reading to get more descriptions of skin lesions. Did you mention about color? I wonder. You mentioned at the intro slides about color, but you didn't really elaborate what are the different types of the different types of different skin lesions that have different colors.
Not mentioned, Doctor.
Not mentioned. Okay. So let's just see. I think I can enter. Can I just try to join the meeting again now? Just 1 second. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The next thing is you want to look at the color and the different types of lesions with different colors. So you might have erythematous lesions. You might have purpuric lesions where it's non-blanchable. So if you press on it, the red color does not blanch. So those are purpuric lesions like ecchymosis, petechiae, they don't blanch on pressure. And then you have violaceous, purplish kind of rash. Sometimes lichen planus can look violaceous. You can have, dermatomyositis. They can have violaceous rash as well. Heliotrope rash. Okay, so these are the different additional description of skin lesions that you might want to read on. Okay, it's good that you categorize again the lesions into primary and also secondary lesions. But I think as long as you can differentiate between papules and macules, patches and plaques. You mentioned wheals. You mentioned all the different secondary changes like crust, scaling, escoriations. You cover a lot already. It's just the additional ones, might help you to make a better diagnosis. So if you appreciate if the specific patterns, is it annular, is it serpiginous, is it flagellate, is it linear, for example? So if it's linear, is it exhibiting Koebner phenomenon where
Tunggu jap, reconnecting. 10 second reconnecting. Reconnecting.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. So yeah, we're looking at nodules here. So did you hear what I said about additional description on the shapes, okay, of the lesions? Yeah. Did you hear that?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, the different shapes, annular, is it annular, linear, serpiginous, flagellate? Those are the examples. And then the color as well. The color gives you an idea of what's happening, what the lesion represents as well. So for example, you have erythema, okay, which is red. You have, purpuric color, which is, red or dark red or purple, but non-blanchable, meaning it doesn't fade when you press on it. And this can be present in lesions like petechiae or ecchymosis, where, you have bleeding under the skin and it didn't blanch, you may have violaceous, colored lesions, for example, heliotrope rash or lichen planus can be violaceous as well. Okay, so these are the different types of shapes and also colors that can help you to identify what the diagnosis is in the patient. Okay, any questions so far? You mentioned already the distribution. So for example, I can give you examples like symmetrical rash, includes things like psoriasis. These are usually symmetrical. Unilateral or bilateral, if you're talking about cellulitis, it's usually like unilateral. If it's bilateral, you have to think about other differential diagnoses, okay? Other diffuse or grouped. So examples of grouped rash is herpes simplex, for example. They are usually grouped monomorphic vesicles on a base of erythema. Okay, they can have secondary changes like crusting, impetiginization with secondary infection. Okay, you can have a diffuse rash as well. For example, patients with erythema where they have redness and scaling all over the body, in approaching to 80-90% of body surface area. So they have diffuse, they're not just patchy, they're not scattered, they are diffuse, is confluent throughout the body, or most of the body surface area. Secondary changes, you've gone through that. So I think that's, those are the main points really that you have to remember. And as we go through the different topics, we might actually revise this from time to time. Okay. So any questions? Any questions?
Doctor, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the neurocutaneous stigmata, right? Is it considered as a primary or a secondary skin lesion?
Which one is it? What do you mean by neurocutaneous stigmata?
For example, the Ashleaf hypopigmentation, or any neurocutaneous neurocutaneous stigmata. Is it considered as a primary or secondary skin lesion?
It's a primary because okay, you look at the examples of secondary skin lesion. Can you go to secondary skin lesions? Okay, so these are scales. Okay, you go back to the first the previous slide. Scales, crusts, excoriations, abrasions, fissures, erosions, ulcers, scars. These are secondary skin lesions. So these are, usually these are not, apart from scaling, which can be part of primary skin lesion, and crust to a certain, in some cases. Excoriation. So what is excoriation? It's a result of stretching, right? Excoriation is basically stretch marks. Okay. Abrasion. When you rub the skin, you can get abrasion as well. Okay. These are not something that happens spontaneously. It happens as a result of something else. Okay. All right. Fissures. So you might have, so usually fissures you can get in, for example, hand dermatitis. So you get hand dermatitis, you can get dry skin with erythematous patches, and you can get vesicles, especially in the web spaces. You might have it all over the hands, but you can look through the web spaces. You can look at the tips of the fingers, and on the palms they might have vesicles, and it can be part of a dermatitis called pompholyx. It's a type of hand dermatitis. Okay, so from this eczema, because the skin is very dry and of course they scratch a lot, because of the dryness, the inflammation, they can get fissures which are linear spits on the skin. So these are not something that happens spontaneously. Okay, it doesn't happen. It happens as a result of the disease or inflammation that is going on in the skin. So that's how you get fissures. They are not, so you can't make a diagnosis on just fissures. Okay. Okay. These are secondary changes. Erosions. Again, erosions. If you have, for example, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, or you have blistering diseases, when the blister ruptures, it could be a tense bulle, as a primary lesion, and when it ruptures, it becomes eroded. You can see erosion, okay? But the erosion, is it part of blistering disease, okay? Or is it because of friction, okay? In, for example, pressure sores, early pressure sores, okay? Ulcers. So ulcers are basically deeper erosions, okay? So where, what is ulcer again? Okay, what is the definition? Presenter? Oh, you have to go through. Okay, what is ulcer?
Rounded, irregularly shaped excavation that result from complete loss of epidermis.
So
with
complete
some
loss of
portion of
epidermis. So you can see, and some portion of dermis. And compared to erosion, can you go to the slides with erosion? So portion of loss of all or portions of epidermis alone. Okay. So the difference is the depth, okay, of skin loss. Okay. Do you get that? And lastly, you have scar in the list of secondary lesions. So scars is, again, something must have happened before a scar is formed. So it is a secondary lesion. Yeah, secondary skin lesion. It's not primary. Scar doesn't happen spontaneously. Something must have happened. Even keloids, sometimes they, it doesn't. They might get very very mild kind of trauma to the skin. It could start with an acne. Okay, so which population is predisposed to keloids? Okay, so African, usually get big keloids. If you notice, they have predisposition to keloids, and it has tendency to grow on certain parts of the body. So if you're doing procedures on, for example, the shoulder areas, the chest, okay, the breast, okay, you have to mention not only the risk of scar but also keloid scar. Okay. All right. Does that answer your question? So I think that's
Yes, doctor. Thank you very much.
okay. All right. Any other questions?
No more question, Doctor.
All right. Okay. If everyone is happy and do not have any questions, then we can end the session. Are you're going to be the same group who is doing eczema lecture with me, right?
Another group, Doctor.
Oh, really?
Another
So-
group, tapi semua yang involve, semua orang
But you're
akan
gonna-
ada dalam teaching.
But it's the same class, right?
Same class.
You're all going to listen in, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when are we planning to have the eczema lecture again? Because is it going to be Tuesday?
Yes, Doctor. Tuesday at 4:15 p.m.
Or 15 p.m. Let me have a look. Right. Okay. But someone texted me that you are probably finishing your long case teaching at 5 p.m. So can we start at 5:30 maybe? Or you prefer during the day, but I have to find a time that suits your class and also my schedule. Okay, what do you think? Are you okay for Tuesday, 5:30 to 6:30? Hello? Hello? Yeah? Sure. Okay, so for now, I'll just put it as 5:30. But you can contact me to adjust, on at other times that may be suitable for all of us. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay.
Thank you so